So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. This is the first one. No, that's fine. Today, I will present a work that we have performed in Argentina, and it's focused on the heterologous protection in a model in cattle. So, let me see. This is the one that goes up. No, I'm missing this one. So as a background, during the early 2000 year, the Argentinian network of research on FMD had produced this paper that I believe Aldo has mentioned in his talk, where they describe a number of strains that have that were responsible for the outbreaks in Argentina during 2000 and 2001. One of these viruses was an A strain, a serotype virus called A2001, and from this work, a series of other papers that we produced together with our colleagues in Belgium have described the vaccine matching of this new strain with the vaccinal strain, the A24 Cruzeiro, both in vivo and in vitro. So basically, these are some of the works that were triggered by this initial paper. And basically, the idea here is that the A2001 was one of the strains that was responsible for the outbreaks, and the vaccines formulated with the A24 Cruzeiro were not sufficiently effective in terms of generating protective immunity against this new strain. Between 56% and 25% of protection in PBG test. So, and the R values were below 0.2 for BNT and below 0.3 for LP-ELISA. So that means that they were poorly antigenically related, these two strains. So this is experimental design that we have prepared. It involves 22 steers. Let me go this way. I'm sorry. 22 steers, and it has 4 experimental groups that were immunized with oil emulsified FMD vaccines that were prepared by Biogenesis Bago for us. These were the vaccines. I'm sorry, this is going down. Okay, let me see. This one is? No. Okay, thank you. So these are the 3 vaccines, A24, 10 microgram, A24, 40 micrograms, 4 times more. A24, but 2 doses, a booster at 15 days post-vaccination, and then a trivalent vaccine, including A24, the same amount as here, C3, and O1 campus, 20 micrograms. With a total of 40 micrograms as this one here, and 2 naive cattle. So these animals were challenged 30 days after vaccination, and we have a series of samples weekly for serum, and then after challenge, a daily sampling for symptoms and sera and other materials. So this is the picture at 30 days post-vaccination. Okay, this is the liquid phase ELISA. Where you can see here is that there are not many differences in terms of the response against the heterologous strain. Those are more evident only for between the revaccinated group and the low-dose monovalent vaccine group. Also, in respect to the homologous strain, there you can see more differences. The revaccinated group has significant differences with many of the other groups, and of course with the trivalent. Let's go otra vez. Okay. I don't know what is going on. Let me see. Okay. And in terms of the the trivalent vaccine, it was the only one that had significant differences for the other two strains, the C3 and the O1, because that was the only one that had those virus in their formulation. So regarding the VNT, in the VNT again, the revaccinated group was the one that had the highest titers against the 2001, and the mean neutralizing antibody in the high dose monovalent group were also higher than the rest here, okay, than the 10 microgram. Now then, are we? Is there something, because it's like I'm skipping some, I don't know, I'm losing some slides here. Okay. We also measure the Avidity ELISA at 30 days post-vaccination. Oh no, this is nightmare. Okay. And we found no significant differences. The Avidity is a measure of give you an idea of the affinity of the antibodies that were induced in these animals, and we found no differences among groups in this parameter. So what happened with the challenge? When we challenged the animals, we found that 2 animals from the low dose monovalent group had symptoms of FMD, 1 from the high dose, and the 2 naive cattle. And none of the animals from the revaccinated group or the trivalent group showed symptoms of the disease. If you see the clinical score here, what you can see is that the non-protected vaccinated animals, they have less severe and more delayed symptoms than the 2 controls. But also interestingly, the rest of the animals from the low dose monovalent, the other 3, they show some, at least in one day during the 7 days, they have some slight hyperthemia. So if we analyze these are the percentages of protection of a low dose monovalent group, that's 60%. That was around similar to the one that has been previously reported, and the 40 microgram, the high dose monovalent, was 80%. These are the NSP, and this is also interesting because quite a few animals, 7 days post-infection, even when they did not generalize the infection, show positive response for NSP, and the ones that are shaded are the ones that show symptoms, blisters in feet. So for this one, a couple of them were not positive at 7 days, probably it was too early, and then we perform a virus isolation and they were positive for that. So we start, since we haven't found any like outstanding differences among groups, we started thinking at individual level. So if you see this alignment according to the increasing VNT titers, you will see that all non-protected animals show VNT titers above those established for the EPP75 for this assay. So this, and this are the 3 that show symptoms, and they are above the level of the cutoff for the EPP75. And 4 of the protected animals had mean titers below those established for the EPP75. If you compare the protected and non-protected, you will see no differences in the VNT titers. When you do the same for liquid phase ELISA titers, you see a similar picture. All non-protected animals show LP-ELISA titers that were above the cutoff for this assay. And 4 out of 17 of the protected animals had mean titers below those of ABP75. That also was reflected in this figure, where you can see that protected and non-protected animals, they don't have significant differences in mean titers. However, when you do this with the Avidity, you see that all the 3 animals, the non-protected steers, were also those that show the lowest Avidity indexes of all. And protected animals with titers below EPP, 75 for ELISA and VNT, these are the 5 of them, all of them show Avidity indexes medium to high, 53% to 75%. So, in conclusion, we found that there were significant differences in the Avidity indexes when you compare protected animals and non-protected animals. So, as a conclusion, only animals from the revaccinated group or that were immunized with a trivalent formulation did not present a generalization of foot and mouth disease. The percentage of protection in the low-dose monovalent group was similar to the previous reports. There were no statistical differences among groups. For interferon gamma, that was one of the slides that was skipped there. I don't know what happened. IgG1, IgG2, and the Avidity indexes. Significant differences among groups were more evident for the heterologous strains when you analyze VNT titers compared with the LP-ELISA. However, nor VNT, neither liquid phase ELISA show a clear correlation with heterologous protection. The determination of the avidity of the sera against the heterologous strain was the only assay that was capable to differentiate protected from non-protected animals. So I want to acknowledge my colleagues from Biogenesis Valgo that were involved in the production of a vaccine, also the people at the ICT Milstein that help us with serology in liquid phase ELISA, and Eduardo Maray from Senasa, and also the GFRA for providing travel support for Sebastian, that is there. And well, I thank you for your attention. I'm sorry for the slides.
Thank you very much, Mariano, and thanks for reporting this significant amount of work, and it's also a nice follow-up of your Avidity studies that you already presented in the past. So, Tim, you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to say congratulations. I've been sort of banging the drum with the end teachers. People don't take notice of other characteristics like Avidity. I think I gave something in, we gave it in Vietnam, but where we showed a correlation between affinity and protection. That was with peptide vaccines, not with viral vaccines. Mm-hmm. So congratulations. It's good to see that we're looking at properties other than just simple titer. But I'm a little puzzled. So when you gave 2 doses of vaccine, you had quite a short interval, about 10 days. And I remember when I was working with Marielle, we did some experiments where it said very clearly if you bring those doses too far to, too close to each other, you really don't get a very good immune response.
Right.
So I would say that we weren't looking at protection, we were looking at antibody titer. Mm-hmm. But you had no protection with the 2 doses, that's correct? Very and why did you use that very short interval?
No, that was, I mean, the idea would be for us to have a longer period of time between the first one and the second dose, and that's right. Even though that group showed no animals with disease, so all of them were protected. But I agree with you, probably a longer distance in time between the prime and the boost would be better.
I think there was a question in the back.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
My question is not just to you, Dr. Mariano, but also to this room, because we know that antibody titers are very sensitive to payloads, as we have demonstrated. And everybody here is using 146S. My question is, do you need standardization of 146S measurement among the labs, or are we comfortable of what we're measuring in each lab is the same for antigenic mass? It's a question. Yeah, that's.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if something has to comment on this.
I mean, where can I go? If you look back to one of the FAO's standard EuFMD standardization studies, where we sent out virus samples. Can anybody hear? Everybody hear me? We sent out virus samples to, I don't know, about 15 laboratories. There were significant differences between the 146S assays, and at that time we used an MS. At that stage, we used an MS2 phage, which was a really nice model system because it's 75S. So it was really, you could buy it purified from what was then called Miles Lab. And I remember there were 3 labs. Can I talk about LP-ELISA? Yeah, I talk about LP-ELISA. LP-ELISA came in with values about twice those of other labs, but then it found out they were using a different cell. So I would say, I think it was also his question back there, but I would say, yeah, you will find differences between laboratories, the way they measure when their 146S. Maybe the spectrophotometry, the way the machine is set up, the way they standardize the machine. It's very, it's very important to standardize the machine with a good standard, and not the standard that is usually recommended by people like ISCO, which is potassium dichromate, I think. So yeah, your 4 micrograms or your 8 micrograms might not be the same.
May not be the same.
Those 4 or 8.
My question is, should we revisit the work that we did in the past among the labs? Because in my experience, 4.2, 4.3 micrograms is different from 4. So my question to the audience is, it's time, for the sake of good scientific method, we revisit standardization among labs for 146S.
I don't have a definite answer to that, but before we would repeat such a test in a sort of ring test to measure the 146S, and maybe, like Tim said, we should have a look into the data from EuFMD, the old data, the white books that were a long time ago. Before there were the ring tests for the antibodies, there were the ring tests for the 146S. So maybe we could look first in those results before we set up new ring tests.
I still have my paper. I can send it to you.
But we'll keep it in. But we will keep your question, and we will keep it as an attention point. There was one more question at the back, and then we have to move on.
It was partly an observation and partly a question. I mean, obviously this is fantastic. I look forward to seeing it with more data. But you were commenting on how poorly the VNTs and ELISAs the liquid phase was doing for against this EPP 75 threshold. But actually, there were 18 animals above the threshold, and it's 75% protective. You'd expect exactly 3 animals not to be protected. So that threshold precisely did its job.
No, and I mean the job of the threshold is focus on at herd level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even
That
at
was
individual
just-
level, you're expecting 25% of the animals that are above that.
No,
threshold
that's
to not be
okay.
protected.
You expect to have 75%.
But the question was actually, I think it was one of the slides that you missed. What happened with the IgG1, IgG2 assay? I didn't
Nothing.
really hear.
No, they were the same. Actually,
the same as the VNT.
the same in terms of there were not the differences among groups, and if you do it the alignment, you get more or less the same as the ELISA. It's
not the same as the Avidity, the same as the liquid phase ELISA.
Yeah.
Right.
And following Dr. Doyle's comment, we published this, the use of the Avidity test in 2012, and to use it as a parameter for heterologous protection, and so that was a vaccine paper also.
I was just saying when, but that doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any
I think
question?
the first one was in 2012, I think. And so we found that Avidity could be related to protection when measuring heterologous protection. And this is just confirmation. Nice one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.